The villagers would later say that the river was the first to notice. Not the people, not the husband. The river. Because reflections never lie, Chioma and Chidinma were born minutes apart. But the world treated them like opposites. Chioma, the eldest, was quiet and watchful. She was born with a birthmark on her cheek and body. Chidinma, the younger one, was light-skinned. She had a soft laughter and was very easy to love. The twins did everything together. They ate together, slept side by side and breathed like one soul split into two bodies. But even as children, something was always slightly unbalanced. There was an old woman who was a seer in the village. No one knew her name because she was very old. So everyone just called her Mama. There were rumors of how powerful she was. One evening, she watched the twins closely as they ran by her house. And she said, "When two people share one soul, balance must be kept. If one begins to rise too high, the other will learn how to pull her down." At that time, no one understood what she meant. Everything was perfect until the twins turned 18. And a wealthy bachelor named Obinna arrived from Lagos. He was rich and powerful, and desired by every woman in the village. But when he saw the twins, everything changed. Because for the first time, Obinna couldn't decide. He spent his days around them, talking, laughing, and watching. And slowly, the villagers began to whisper, and rumors began to spread. Which one will he choose? They asked. Will he go for the eldest Chioma, or Chidinma, the younger one, who was soft, radiant, and impossible to ignore? On the day he finally came with his family, the whole compound fell silent. Even the air felt tense. "I have made my choice," he said. And without hesitation, he chose Chidinma, the younger sister. Just like that. No confusion. No second glance. Chioma smiled. But something inside her broke. Chioma didn't complain. She didn't fight. Neither did she question Obinna's choice. Instead, she became the perfect sister. She helped plan the wedding, choose the fabrics, and organize the whole wedding. She laughed when others laughed, and smiled when they looked at her. But behind her smile, something darker was taking root. Her eyes followed her sister quietly, with anger, hatred, and quiet resentment. Chioma envied her sister, and was thinking of a way to get what was hers. One night, a day before the wedding, while braiding Chidinma's hair, Chioma paused. Her hands stopped moving. Her eyes lingered just a little too long, staring at her sister. "What?" Chidinma asked her, smiling. Chioma smiled back. "Nothing," she said. But in that moment, something has already begun. That same night, Chioma left the house quietly, on barefoot. She walked to the crossroads, a place all the villagers feared, a place where desperate thoughts and wishes came to pass. She stopped there for a long time. And finally, she spoke. "Why not me? Why is it that nothing good ever happens to me?" The answer came to her like a chilling whisper. Soft, patient, and understanding. "You were overlooked," the voices said. Chioma looked around her, and was shocked to suddenly see 7 spirits hovering around her. She didn't scream or run in fear, because they sounded right. "What do I have to do to get him to be mine?" she asked. "Nothing difficult," they replied in unison. "Just take back what should have been yours." Later that night, Chioma returned home like nothing happened. The next day was Chidinma's wedding. She prepared her sister's bridal bath herself, as tradition demanded. She poured in the oil and the herbs. Then she looked around. to see if anyone was watching. And she added something extra. Something dark, evil, and forbidden. Something that didn't belong to tradition. A crushed talisman, mixed with her own blood. A week after the wedding. Everything seems perfect. Chidinma was loved, admired, and celebrated. But slowly, things began to change. She laughed less. And her energy faded. She was always weak. Meanwhile, Chioma began to glow. Not just physically, but in a way people couldn't explain. And for the first time, people started looking at her differently. Especially Obinna, who once had eyes for only his wife. Now, he looked at her differently. At first, he didn't understand it. He would sit beside his wife and feel nothing. No warmth. No attraction. No pull. Just distance. Then Chioma, his wife's elder sister, would enter the room. And everything inside him would shift. His eyes would follow her. Without permission. He tried to fight. And ignore the attraction. But he couldn't. What he felt for Chidinma was slowly disappearing. And what he felt for Chioma was growing into something he could no longer control. Obinna found himself withdrawing from his wife. At first, she thought it was stress. The second time, she thought it was her fault. But by the third time, she knew something was terribly wrong. "What is it?" she asked him. Her voice shaking. "What have I done?" Obinna looked at her. With disgust. No love. No recognition. Just irritation. "I don't know why I married you," he said. "It feels like I was forced." His words hit her. Harder than a slap on the face. Because she knew. She never forced him. So what was he talking about? After that day, everything unraveled quickly. Chidinma started itching. After a few days, she started smelling terribly. Then came the flies. That followed her wherever she went. Because the smell grew worse. By the day, Obinna stopped coming home early. He didn't even come home sometimes. Because he wanted to avoid her touch. And her presence. The house that once felt warm had become cold. No matter the perfumes she used, the smell stayed. People stopped coming close to her. Her friends stopped visiting her. And whispers followed wherever she went. What happened to her? She used to be so beautiful. Marriage ruined her. Maybe he used her for rituals. But deep down, Chidinma knew that her predicament was not caused by marriage. This was something else. Chioma didn't try to hide it anymore. She visited often. She sat where Chidinma used to sit, fed Obinna, and behaved like she was his wife. Chidinma was too weak to put up a fight. And slowly, Chioma began to take up space in her home. And a life that wasn't hers. And Obinna let her. He welcomed it. Because to him, Chioma felt right. Like something he had chosen. But somehow forgotten. One night, Chidinma couldn't take it anymore. She took a stick. Out of anger. And almost attacked her sister. She stood in front of them. Her voice shaking. And her eyes filled with tears. "This is my husband," she said to her sister. "And this is my home." Chioma looked at her calmly. And said, "Is it?" And for the first time, Chidinma saw her betrayal clearly. The next morning, Obinna made his decision. He packed his bags. And didn't look back. When Chidinma begged, he only said one thing. "I don't belong here. And I don't belong to you." So leave me alone. He left. With Chioma, her elder sister, by his side. The woman who now carried everything that once belonged to his wife. The whole village was shocked. Chioma had relocated to the city with her sister's husband Obina. And Chidinma was left behind. Alone. Sick. Weak. And forgotten. 2 weeks after they relocated, Chidinma found out she was pregnant, carrying a child. For a man who no longer remembered loving her. Everyone who saw her said she was unlucky. That marriage had ruined her. That she had lost everything. But the truth was far worse. She hadn't lost her life. Her sister had swapped it. Chidinma carried her pregnancy alone. And in pain. The house that once felt like a home had gone quiet. Too quiet. No laughter. No visitors. Just silence. And the weight of everything she had lost. At first, people pitied her. They brought food. They sat with her. And whispered soft prayers. But that didn't last long. Because slowly, something about her began to change. As her smell worsened, her skin dulled. Her presence made people uncomfortable. And one by one, they started staying away from her. Soon, even the market women refused to sell to her. Go away, they said. You carry bad luck. Since you got pregnant, nothing has been right. Chidinma stood there, holding her stomach. Too weak to argue. Too tired to beg, and hunger became her closest companion. Then something even stranger began to happen. The villagers started to forget. Not slowly. Not gradually. Just like that. It was as if a part of their memory had been wiped clean. Obina's name stopped coming up in conversations. His face completely faded from their minds. The man who had once shaken the entire village became someone no one could remember. As for Chidinma, women looked at her stomach, then at her face, and laughed. Who got you pregnant? One of them asked mockingly. Or did you just wake up like this? Another shook her head. No man would choose this, she said. Look at her. The laughter spread. The whispers grew louder. She's loose, one woman spat. Look at her, carrying a child with no father. A bastard, another added, shaking her head. Shameless girl. The word stung. But the confusion hurt more. My husband will come back, Chidinma said weakly. Obina, he will come back for me. The woman she spoke to went still. Then her face twisted in anger. You wicked girl, she snapped. Is that the name you chose? Chidinma blinked, confused. But the woman wasn't finished. Obina is your sister's husband, she said sharply. How dare you open your mouth and call another woman's husband your own? The crowd murmured in agreement. Some shook their heads in disgust. Others looked at her like she had lost her mind. No, she whispered to herself. No, this is not right. She shook her head quickly. As if she could force the truth back into place. You were there, she said, her voice rising. All of you, you came, you saw it. But the way they looked at her wasn't confusion. It was pity, mixed with disgust. A woman from the crowd stepped forward, her face twisted. No wonder you are cursed, she said harshly. Flies follow you everywhere. She pointed at Chidinma's body with contempt. It's because you carry evil in your heart. She pressed her fingers against her temples. Trying to hold on. Trying to remember clearly. The wedding. The laughter. The vows. They were still there. But now, they felt distant. Fragile. Like memories that didn't quite belong to her anymore. She started. But she couldn't finish it. Because the question was too dangerous. Am I the one who's wrong? The crowd had already moved on, leaving her standing there, alone with the truth. She was no longer sure she could trust. And for the first time, Chidinma felt something worse than pain. Worse than betrayal. She felt her sanity slipping. Because of what happened at the market. Chidinma couldn't think straight. The voices wouldn't leave her head. Who got you pregnant? You are cursed. You have a wicked heart. She walked without direction. Her steps slow and distracted. Her mind kept replaying everything. Their laughter. Their stares. The way they looked at her, like disgusting filth. They were there, she whispered to herself. They all came, they all saw my wedding to Obina. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. What if I'm wrong? She thought. Then she shook her head quickly. No, I can't be wrong. I'm not crazy. She didn't notice when she turned. She didn't notice when the familiar path changed. Standing in front of her was a place she hadn't seen in years. A place she had promised herself she would never return to. The old woman's house. She turned back in fear because she hadn't meant to come here. She hadn't even realized where she was going. But somehow she had found her way back. Before she could escape. The voice came from behind her. You've grown. Chidinma froze. Then she turned slowly. And there she was. The old woman. Standing close to her. Watching her. Like she had been expecting her. Why do you look like someone who has been emptied? The old woman continued softly. Chidinma was too scared to move. Her voice barely came out. I didn't mean to come here, Mama, I'm very sorry. The old woman smiled. No one ever does, she said. Her eyes dropped slowly. To Chidinma's stomach. Then back to her face. But you didn't come by mistake. You came because something was taken from you. And trust me, my child, we will get it back. Chidinma fell down on the floor and held onto Momo's wrapper as she cried because for the first time, someone believed her. The old woman didn't wait for her to speak again. She turned and walked slowly into her hut. Come, she said. Chidinma hesitated. Every part of her wanted to leave. But something stronger kept her standing there. Then she followed slowly. The old woman sat down carefully. Then gestured for Chidinma to sit. Her eyes didn't leave her. You've suffered, she said quietly. Chidinma's voice came out weak. They said, I'm cursed. The old woman laughed. Cursed, she repeated. Then shook her head slowly. No, child. You are being oppressed. Chidinma frowned slightly. By who? She asked. Your sister, the old woman continued. She went to the crossroads, she said. She called on ancient spirits that should not be called. And she made a bargain, your happiness for hers. She gave them something in order to take everything that belonged to you. Chidinma shook her head weakly. Is that why everyone forgot I was married, she said. The old woman nodded. Yes, that is part of the price, she said. When a life is taken, the world must adjust. So the truth becomes hidden. And the lie is made real. Chidinma's eyes filled with tears. Then, what is left for me? Is there still any hope, Mama? She whispered. The old woman nodded. Yes. You are lucky our paths crossed. That only happens when the gods have decided to show mercy. What do you mean? Chidinma asked. The old woman whispered into the fire. It means your sister's wickedness will not stand, and her oppression will not last forever. Then she touched Chidima's stomach. But you must be patient, she said firmly. You cannot fight this now. You must give birth first. This journey will not be easy. You will be tested. And there will be moments you will wish to give up. But if you endure, everything that was taken from you will be restored. In the city, Chioma was living the life she had always wanted. Beautiful clothes and soft beds. Maids attending to her every need and attention everywhere she turned. And Obinna never left her side. To everyone else, she was perfect. But perfection does not last when it is stolen. On her birthday, Obinna spared no expense. He gifted her a brand new car. Chioma's eyes lit up instantly. She laughed, throwing her arms around him. Thank you, Obim, she whispered. Obinna smiled, watching her like she was the best decision he had ever made. And for a moment, everything felt right. Later that night, when the laughter faded, Chioma sat quietly, her hand resting on her stomach, her smile long gone. Obinna noticed. What is it? He asked gently. She hesitated, then forced a small smile. I just thought that by now we would have our own child. It will happen at the right time, Chi. He said, holding her hand. And besides, we have time. We are still very young. Chioma nodded slowly. But deep down she held a secret buried deeper than guilt. She couldn't tell Obinna, but she was just pretending to be sad and bothered. The truth was her womb no longer belonged to her. It now belonged to the 7 spirits of the crossroads. She gave it as the price she paid in swapping her sister's life with hers. The next day, Chioma stepped out in her new car. She drove through the city, turning heads, soaking in the life she had taken. She played the part of Obinna's wife perfectly, and no one saw the truth. On her way back, she stopped at a friend's salon to fix her hair. After a while she stepped away to use the restroom. I'll be back, she told her friends casually. The moment the restroom door closed, she was no longer alone. They stood around her. 7 of them. Wicked shadow spirits. Watching and waiting. No, she whispered. Did you think we forgot? They asked her in unison. Chioma shook her head. I already gave what you asked, she said quickly. I did everything. Silence. The voices cut her off. You gave your womb, the spirit said slowly. But to continue enjoying and living in peace. Every year, it continued. You will give what your womb was supposed to produce. A newborn. No, Chioma whispered, her voice shaking. No, that's not what we agreed. The spirits moved closer, surrounding her. You agreed, they said together, to take a life. Now, you will give a life. Over and over again. Every year you will bring a newborn to the crossroads for the rest of your life. Again and again and again. Chioma's legs weakened. And if I refuse, she asked. One spirit leaned in close. Then everything you took will be returned to the rightful owner, including him. The lights flickered again. And just like that they were gone. Chioma stood there alone, and shaking. Meanwhile, back in the village, Chidima's body couldn't take the pain anymore. She was in labor. She cried out, loud this time. Not caring who heard. Mama. Her fingers dug into the mud beneath her. Her whole body shaking. She remembered all she had gone through for the last 9 months. She has been starved, humiliated and rejected, and now she felt like she was about to die. She shook her head, crying. Look at me, Mama said firmly. Breathe and push harder, my child, please do not fight it. I can't, she whispered. Mama leaned closer. You can, she said. Her voice steady. This pain is not here to destroy you. It is here to bring something forth. Another wave hit Dot this time. Stronger and deeper. And this time, Chidinma didn't fight it. And finally her son was born. Immediately she gave birth, everything changed. The flies were gone from her. And the foul smell stopped. As if they had never been there. Chidinma looked at her body, then around the room, confused. Mama looked at her and smiled. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "Beginning of what?" Chidinma asked weakly. Mama adjusted the baby in her arms. Then placed him gently beside her. "Your victory," she said. "You have suffered," she continued. "But it will not end that way, my child." She reached out slowly. And placed her hand on Chidinma's head. "Rest now, my child. You will need your strength for what is coming." She drifted into peaceful sleep for the first time in a long time. But in the city, peace did not exist. Chioma sat alone. The restroom now empty. But the voices still echoing in her head. Every year. A newborn. "No," she whispered. "There has to be another way." But deep down she already knew. There wasn't. That night, Chioma couldn't sleep. She thought about her experience at the saloon over and over again. Trying to find a way out. But every path led to the same place. The crossroads. And the price. Then slowly, a thought entered her mind. "It doesn't have to be mine. Any newborn," she whispered. By morning, Chioma had made her decision. If a child was the price, then a child she would find. No matter who it belonged to. Chioma didn't waste time. By evening, she had already chosen where to go. Not the clean parts of the city. Not the places where people asked questions. She drove. Past the bright lights. Past the smooth roads, until she got to the poorest part of town. She saw a woman sitting outside a small house. A baby in her arms. Crying softly. Chioma slowed the car. Her eyes locked on the child. She stepped out from her car slowly. Forcing a smile as she walked up to the woman. "Hello," she said softly. The woman looked up, cautious. "Can I help you?" Chioma's eyes flickered to the baby again. Then back to the woman. "I saw your baby crying and I wanted to help," she said. Her voice almost convincing. But something about her was wrong and the woman felt it. Her grip on the baby tightened. "I'm fine," she said quickly. Chioma stepped closer anyway. The baby started crying louder. And the woman's eyes changed instantly. "What do you want?" she asked. Chioma froze. Just for a second. And that was enough. She made a move to take the baby. "Thief!" the woman screamed. The word tore through the street. Doors opened. Heads turned. "She wants to take my baby," she screamed. "That's not true," Chioma stammered. But it was too late. An angry and suspicious crowd was already gathering. One man stepped forward. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" he demanded. Another moved closer. "These rich women think they can do anything." The crowd thickened and voices began rising. Chioma panicked because this was not part of the plan. She turned suddenly and ran, pushing past the crowd, ignoring the shouts behind her. "Catch her! Thief!" Someone grabbed her arm but she managed to pull. She pulled free. She reached the car, jumped in, and drove off fast, not looking back. By the time she stopped, her hands were shaking, her breathing uneven, her heart still racing from what just happened. She gripped the steering wheel tightly. "This is not working," she whispered. And then she remembered that she had just 1 week That's all she had left. 7 days. To find a child. Or lose everything. The next day. She tried to act normal. She went grocery shopping. Moving through the aisles. But her mind was not there. It was counting the days and hours. Until a voice called her name. Chioma. She turned slowly and saw a familiar face. Someone from the village. Her old friend. They hugged. And for a moment, everything felt normal again. Then her friend said, "Have you heard that your sister Chidinma just had a baby?" Chioma frowned slightly. Chioma's expression didn't change. "She had a baby boy," the girl continued. "It's a miracle, honestly, after everything." Chioma quickly smiled and nodded, pretending she already knew. But her mind was no longer in the conversation. Because suddenly everything became clear. She didn't need to search anymore. She didn't need to risk being caught again. The solution had always been there. That night Chioma made her decision. She would return to the village. And this time she wouldn't fail. Because the child she needed already belonged to her sister. She would snatch her sister's baby at night after making her sister trust her again. And take the baby to the crossroads. That way her sister would also never have a child for Obinna. Chioma didn't tell Obinna the truth, she couldn't. That morning, as she packed her things, and told him she was going for a friend's wedding and won't stay long, Chioma avoided his eyes. Because deep down she was afraid. Not of the journey. But of something worse. She was scared that somehow being close to the village again might make him remember that Chidinma was his wife and not her. And that was a risk she could not take. The journey felt longer than she remembered. Every turn, every tree, every path stirred something uneasy inside her. By the time she arrived, the air felt different and heavier than usual. Chioma went straight to their old house. The place where everything had begun. But it was empty, cold and quiet. As if no one had lived there in a long time. She was confused, so she asked one of the women nearby, "Where is my sister Chioma?" The woman didn't answer immediately. She just stared at her, strangely. Then finally she told her, "Try Mama's place." Chioma's steps slowed as she approached the hut. She felt uneasy and then she saw Mama sitting outside. As if she had always known that she would come. Chioma forced herself to speak. "Where is Chidinma?" she asked. Mama didn't answer immediately. She just looked at her. Then she laughed. Not loudly. But with quiet satisfaction. "You came too late," she said. Chioma frowned. "What do you mean?" Mama's eyes didn't leave hers. 2 nights ago, she said slowly. Her renewal began. Then the door opened. And Chidinma stepped out. Holding her child. Healthy and whole. Radiant in a way Chioma had never seen before. She froze. Her eyes locking with Chioma's. She felt shock, confusion and pain. All at once. Suddenly something inside Chioma snapped. She let out a loud scream. Her hands grabbed her clothes. Tearing them violently. "I'll confess," she shouted. "I'll say everything." Before anyone could stop her. She ran. Straight toward the village square. Like something was chasing her. Or dragging her. Mama and Chidinma ran after her. By the time they reached the square, Chioma was already talking about the bargain, the exchange, and how she planned to steal her sister's baby. Her voice started shaking, but she couldn't stop. "I took her life," she cried. "I took everything from her." The crowd fell completely silent. Because as she spoke, something began to lift. like a fog clearing. And slowly and painfully, the truth returned to the whole village. Memories, faces, and moments. The villagers now remembered Obinna, their wedding, and Chidinma as his wife. The villagers gasped. Some covered their mouths. Others stepped back in shock. Chidinma stood there trembling, tears falling freely down her face. Because finally, she was no longer alone in the truth. Finally, she was seen. "Why?" she whispered. But Chioma didn't answer. She couldn't. Instead, she collapsed and died instantly, her body hitting the ground heavily. Silence filled the square. Then Chidinma turned to Mama. "What just happened?" she asked weakly. Mama sighed softly. "The spirits never tell everything," she said. "She was never supposed to see you again." That was the condition she did not know. "And now?" she asked. Mama looked at Chioma's still body. "Now, the balance has been restored." 2 days later Obinna returned. This time, to the right place. He stood at the entrance of the village, confused and shaken, like a man waking from a long dream. "Chidinma," he called softly. When she saw him, her heart stopped. Because this time, his eyes were clear. He walked toward her slowly. "I don't remember everything," he said. "But I know. I lost something." His voice broke slightly. "And I'm sorry." Chidinma stared at him. Then slowly, she stepped forward. Because despite everything, some things were still real. And so, what was taken was returned. What was broken was restored. And what was hidden was finally brought into the light. Because one thing remained true. Some bargains may give you everything, but the spirits will always come back for what you owe.